After a 3-0 week from our New York Knicks, where Jalen Brunson was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, and the Knicks pulled out three close, exciting victories last night against the Golden State Warriors. The Knicks had a decent first half, but in the second half, once again, were outclassed by an elite team on national television. First and foremost, let's go ahead and throw out there Karl Anthony Towns missed the game due to personal reasons. We wish him and all those connected to him the best. His longtime girlfriend, Jordan Woods, did tweet out last night, fuck cancer. So we're not exactly sure exactly who is being affected or exactly with what. But I mean, obviously, we echo those sentiments, something near and dear to our hearts as well. And just hope that, everything is as good as it can be, and that Cat's people or Jordan's people end up being all right, and that he's able to get back whenever he can and take as long as he needs to be able to deal with that. Now, back to the basketball that we saw yesterday. Typically, big guy, I kick it to you immediately and I ask you what you're thinking and what you thought. But I want to start off by making a couple points here about last night's game and just the overall state of the Knicks when we play some of these more top tier, top echelon teams. And it's interesting because John Macri over at he's editor in chief over at Knicks Film School, and he is somebody that I've been listening to for a long time. Him and CP with the Knicks Fans TV are probably the leaders and kind of the blueprint in this Knicks new media space. And he's somebody who is an ardent Thibs supporter. He's always just, whenever somebody's got something to say, minutes police, this and that, similar to a lot of what you and I say about the, where we were recently and where we are now. And it's kind of crazy to even criticize this guy. And even more so than me, as somebody who I think is very, very pro Thibs overall, but, does like to, I do point out his, his deficiencies when I see them sometimes. And I went and I rewatched this game last night. Actually, I went and rewatched the most of the first half, fast forwarded through some of it, but rewatched the second half, put myself through that agony, even knowing, the outcome due to, me coaching my kid in baseball yesterday. And I watched it and I had a very strong feeling after the game. And then today, when I watched his monologue after, talking about Cat and talking about the fact that we were missing, all-star center yesterday, he said very flatly, and I was very surprised to hear him say this. He said, Tom Thibodeau lost the Knicks this basketball game. And it does seem, like I've said before, when we go up against some of these upper echelon coaches, sometimes Thibs, they make adjustments and we don't necessarily make them quick enough in response. And I have to throw this out as well. After the Miami game and Eric Spoelstra, who many people, though a lot of Miami fans, I realized just because my Twitter algorithm got mixed up with theirs with this last game against the Heat, a lot of Miami fans have a lot of things to say about Spo and how the game maybe has passed him by. But I say that Spo is a very good coach and has been a very good coach for a very long time. I thought, kind of outclassed Thibs a couple years ago in the second round of the playoffs when the Knicks lost. I think did we get it to 6? It was either 6 or 5. And pretty sure it was 6. And since then, Thibs is 4-1 against Spo. And I thought that Thibs' lineup manipulation in that Heat game was excellent. I think it was just as bad in this game against the Warriors. And I specifically go to a particular part in the game where it's about midway through the fourth quarter. We are down by 1. They actually had stretched the lead to 5, maybe 7. We got it back down to 1. And there is a timeout. It's not even a timeout. It's just a break in the action and, a dead ball. And we have Brunson, Bridges, and Josh Hart, and they come in. And the players that come in are Shamet, Payne, and Deuce. And at that point, Deuce never sees the floor again until the very end when the game is pretty much over. And I honestly think that right then and there, the game was pretty much over. I thought putting Josh Hart back in for Deuce right there made absolutely no sense. Josh Hart's having a tough stretch, right? He was having one of the worst games he's had as a Knick, and definitely this season last night. And as we've talked about before on here, and as pretty much every Knick fan who follows anything on Twitter knows, every lineup that we have, the top six of them, as far as the overall per, is they all include Deuce. They all include Deuce. And I just thought right then, and I think especially against some of these better teams, when you put that lineup out there with Josh Hart, they just totally get away from him. And especially Josh Hart with another non-spacer, say it be a Precious or a Mitchell Robinson, and then no Cat on the floor. Josh Hart's numbers with Cat on the floor are exponentially better just because of, that's one other player that you can't just leave, and therefore he can now cut and move and things like that with all that spacing on the floor. I just thought that I thought that not only that, but the lack of adjustments that were made once they made the adjustment at halftime to trap Jalen Brunson, and then when Jalen Brunson wasn't on the floor, to run a zone. And also, at the end of the day, when it comes down to if this team wants to play hard, if this team wants to just, know who they're guarding on a given possession and not just give up a one pass into a wide open three, all of those things to me come back to the coach. They all come back to the coach. All of those things are, if he's not the one that's getting through to them, sure, we would love them to do it on their own. But if they don't, and he's not the one to get through to them, to get him to do it the same way that a Steve Kerr does, that a Joe Mazzulla does, that a JJ Redick does, then you start to wonder, is this the guy that can get us over the hump? And I thought that Friday was the best of them. And I thought that Sunday was the best of them against the Heat. And I thought that Tuesday was the worst of them. Talk to me, big guy. How are you feeling about the Knicks and where we're at right now? And what part does Thibs play in it?
I mean, obviously, I'm disappointed in our output last night, especially in the second half. I think something you said makes a lot of sense, right? Spo is regarded by many as one of the best coaches in the game. But I'm sure if you read, as you said, Miami fan stuff, you'll find enough fans in that group who would be very critical of Spo because they're losing. They're not playing their best. The deal is that fans, whenever the team loses, are going to be critical and sometimes hypercritical of the coach. Now, if Thibs cannot get through to these guys and make them play harder, maybe they need a different voice, right? But I also think, Nick, that, these teams where they play very hard and step up their level in the second part of the game or in the fourth quarter or whatever, we didn't forget, Thibs didn't forget how to coach from the first half to the second half. We stopped playing as hard in the second half. Now, I don't blame the coach for all that. Not on a pro level, Nick. Okay? I'm sorry, but I feel like on a pro level, these guys are going to play how they want to play and how they're being led. And I think there are some coaches who spur you on a little bit, but ultimately what it really comes down to is, do these guys have the dog in them? Do they, bust it to get out there and get at somebody? And, there were times during the game yesterday where I saw the Knicks playing like that. And then there are many times when they're not. I just have a hard time believing that Thibs is just laying back saying, he won't even mention it. I'm 99% sure that he says something. Come on, guys, we got to step it up or whatever. These guys have to step it up. I think in the game before Miami, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, what's his name? Josh Hart made some big plays down the stretch. He set a pick and got a big rebound that enabled Jalen Brunson, before a couple of Jalen Brunson's buckets down the stretch that made the big difference in that huge comeback. I think that he's a guy you trust on the floor. And listen, if Josh Hart doesn't get put back in that waning parts of that Miami game, maybe we don't win that game. I think that I get what you're saying about having Deuce on the floor, but if you had Deuce on the floor with Josh Hart yesterday in the waiting points of the game, then who are you taking off? Mikal Bridges, who, by
Well,
the way,
we saw Bridges get benched in at the fourth quarter
I
of
know
that
that, but
Miami
not
game.
when you're playing against what's his name, Curry, who he played great defense against in the first half. Second half, he didn't control him.
I thought that I wasn't mad at the defense against Curry throughout the game. I thought that we did okay on him. He's Steph Curry. Right. I thought but that, especially when you go back, when I went back and watched it in that first half, I don't know how much we played so well as they were just missing a whole bunch of wide open shots. And in the second half, those same wide open shots started to fall. And that's, Murphy's Law. Not Murphy's Law. That's the law of averages right there, where you feel like, at some point, these guys are going to shoot close to what their back of their card says. But the thing that drives me bananas is the plays where there, and I sent you the video on Twitter, and that was 2 of them, and there was a lot more of them where literally the Knicks just didn't know who they were guarding. This is stuff that you do when you play in the park with somebody. Everybody says who they guard, and then you guard that person. Like, where a guy just dribbles up and kicks it over to a guy, he's standing by himself, and he shoots a 3. And every single one.
Thibs' fault?
No, I don't know if that's Thibs' fault first of all, no, that's not Thibs' fault. But I wonder if he challenges guys the way I see a Mazzulla challenge guys. I see a lot of Thibs other than Deuce. I don't see a whole lot of Thibs just like as a player's coming off the floor, looking directly at them and saying, how are we not guarding people? How is it that we don't know who we're guarding when the ball comes across half court? How is it off of a missed free throw? They just put the ball up and they end up getting a layup on the other end. You specifically, why aren't you there? And the thing is, Dad, when I see these other coaches get mic'd up, I see them specifically talking about specifics. When I hear Thibs get mic'd up, I always think it's a lot of generalities. And I wonder if he is willing to call out one of his players the way a Mazzulla is willing to call out Jason Tatum. I'm not sure if that's the case, but also beyond that, it's when you watch that game yesterday, Josh Hart was having one of the worst games he's had as a Knick. So in my opinion, that is the hard part when this is rich people problems. The better your team gets, there's some teams where you know who the 5 are going to be at the end because the drop off after them is so drastic that nobody else is. But when you have a good team and you have a lot of players who can contribute, and depending on matchups and depending on who's got it that night, who's bringing it that night, sometimes, a Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Deuce, between those 3, only 2 of them probably going to be on the floor. So the other person, unfortunately, you're going to play the role of Bridges the other night. It just seems to me that it is becoming more and more obvious as the season goes along that Deuce McBride, the team plays so much better. Eye test says it. Numbers say it. When he's on the floor, it's not just his ability to shoot. It's his willingness to shoot, and it's the spacing that he creates due to the fact that other teams know that he will shoot. And then defensively, he gives you a bunch. Josh Hart in that game was 1 of 8, had 1 offensive rebound. To me, it just seems so clear that the game totally went away. And then it went away. And then at the very end of the game, we tried that smaller lineup with like OG at the 5. I thought that had to happen a little bit quicker. I thought as soon as we made that switch right there and we were down by 1 and immediately they go back, I just think that right then and there, it was very clear that if you have this lineup with Precious out here and Josh Hart out here, the Warriors are too smart for that. They are going to, and what did we ended up, every play that we come up and we run, they're like, we want them to take a Precious 3. We want Josh Hart to have to take a 3. And they dictate that to us on defense. I personally feel when I watch this Knicks team play that we seem as if we just play our set and what we do, and the other team runs what they run, and everything that we do is extremely difficult, and it requires either Brunson or somebody else to, basically be a hero. And I watch the other team run plays that ends up in layups, and it's because it's a long, elaborate play. I just don't understand why I don't see that from us very often. Is that what our player, he's calling the plays and the players just aren't running them? Is that what it is? I don't know, but other teams run more sets than we do, and we just run more concepts. That's a fact. That is a statistical fact. It's been borne out before that we do not run a ton of actual sets and plays. We more so just run a concept. And I think the NBA is getting away from that. And that's the thing with Thibs. I love Thibs. It's really hard to be good at something for 40 years. It's really, really hard. It's just, there's younger people who are coming up who are looking at the game through a different lens and have played in it when it was a little bit closer to what it is now. And maybe that makes them just a slightly more cutting edge. And like I said, I don't know who the replacement is, so I'm not out here saying fire Thibs. I just see a very, very stark difference when we play against some of the younger, better minds. And Steve Kerr, he ain't that young, but he's always been super innovative ever since he's taken over as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of what you say has merit, in my opinion. But like you said, I don't know who else they're getting to coach. But listen, if this team is not hearing Thibs when he tries to tell them and spur them on, and they need a different voice, they get a different voice in the offseason. I think it's a lot easier said than done. I think, you're playing with fire there, that you bring in somebody new and the team nosedives. If you look at the records of the Thibs coach teams after he leaves, they nosedive. I mean, and you know what, Nick? I mean, I just have to be real honest here. I think a lot of people, yourself included, a lot of people, like I tell you all the time, I feel like I trust Thibs. I believe in him. And I also feel like, yeah, maybe he could do some things differently. But I think we can all figure out what we would do differently when we lose. And if you were coaching the team or I was coaching the team and we lost, there'd be a lot of people who would say, he should have done this. He should have done that. We should have done this. And that may be true. That may have worked. That may have not. But what we do here is give opinions, right? So that's your opinion. I just think that it's easy for us to have opinions. I think it's a lot more difficult when you're making those decisions in real time. And even if you felt that way in real time and made that decision, if the outcome wasn't a win, then there'd be a lot of criticism that comes along with it. And I'm sure I have to believe that the things you're thinking of, Thibs and his coaching staff have thought of these things too. They know a lot more basketball than you and I will ever know. And
it's a disagreement in theory, though. It's not about I personally think that we should put more emphasis on guarding the 3-point line as opposed to guarding the paint. I think most modern day younger coaches feel the same way with the way that the NBA is played right now. I think on offense, we should emphasize the 3 more, and we shouldn't be 27th in attempts overall out of 30 teams. Clearly, that's not what if he was a coach who was like, listen, we need to get up threes and coach the way, like, again, Mazzulla's a very good person here to bring up. And sometimes I even feel like when I'm watching the Celtics, I feel like just watching it as the way I like to watch basketball, they shoot too many threes. Well, clearly the numbers bear it out that's the smarter way to play basketball in today's NBA. And we have the personnel.
You got guys who can make the threes.
We have the personnel. We do. We have the personnel. We just don't put the 4 of them on there's too often when we have 3 guys who can shoot and 2 that can't. In today's NBA, having more than 1 guy on the floor who can't shoot is a very hard thing to do. And it's also something about the one thing I noticed about the Knicks, Dan, how often do the Knicks have a ball kicked out to them and it's a 3 that they could get off, they pump fake that, and then they start to dribble and we end up in a worse shot. I think if you do that on Joe Mazzulla's team, he sits you down and he watches the tape with you and says, you have to shoot that shot right there. Right there, that one right there. You have to shoot that shot. I don't think that Thibs conceptually, as far as the way that we guard, we clearly put more of an emphasis on trying to guard the paint than we do the 3-point line. That's conceptually how we are set up as a team. Offensively, we're 27th in the league. His teams are routinely at the bottom when it comes to 3-point attempts per game. That has something to do with his overall philosophy. I think those philosophies are antiquated.
But we're top 5 in offense.
Yes, but that's not what I said. I talked about shooting the 3.
I know that's not what you said. We're top 5 in offense, running the offense the way we run it. And there's something wrong with that? I think
yes, I think being 27th in 3-point attempts is bad. Yes, in today's NBA, where there's such an emphasis on shooting the 3, we need to be in the top half in the league.
We need to have 4 guys on the floor who can shoot it. I think if you have Deuce on the floor, we become very small. Okay, I don't know, and clearly, Thibs and them feel that way and feel like that would be bad for us as far as winning games.
The rest of the elite coaches of the league disagree. The elite coaches of the league, they predicate.
The elite coaches of the league might not disagree, Nick, if they had our personnel. He's making those decisions based on our personnel.
Because some of them don't even have. Some of them have personnel that leads more to them wanting to play big, but yet they still, the elite coaches of the league, they emphasize and they value shooting over size. They value defending the 3-point line over defending the paint. It's smarter than people than me. Break it down numbers wise, film wise, eye test wise, all of those things. And that is a big difference than what the game was 10 years ago. That is a transition that that is happening. And for some teams has already happened.
Right. Okay. Well,
if you want to be the 27th at 3-point attempts in the NBA, and you also are the worst at guarding the 3 in the NBA, there's zero chance you're winning a championship. Zero. Okay. And some of those are not just about our skill level. It's about our philosophies.
Fine. I think that, philosophies can change. I don't think we have the personnel to win a championship. I've told you that. I don't think we're good enough. I think we say we need to guard the 3 more and stop worrying about the paint. I think if you look back at this podcast a couple of weeks ago, we were screaming about it's just so easy to go to the paint against the Knicks.
It seems that way when you watch.
It is,
but it's not that way. The numbers don't bear that out.
I know that, Nick. And you know, when you want to make a point, you always rely on the numbers, but you understand that the game is more than just numbers. You and I both know that there are many times that people are getting to the hole way too easy on us. We see that all the time. And part of it, Nick, in my opinion, when I watch these other teams, they have a lot more people who can put it on the floor and just get by somebody, Nick. They're getting by Josh Hart. They're getting by people. Our guys don't seem to be able to do that. Jalen Brunson gets by people, but only with guile and with getting that body in front, not with quickness and just jetting on people. We don't have that. I don't understand. I wish we did. And that makes a big difference, Nick. That's where people are getting open threes. That's where people are getting to the hole really easily against us because they're going by that initial defender so easily. And then when the guy backs off, the guy's hitting the 3. So I don't know the exact answer, Nick. What I'm saying to you is I don't see our guys getting by people that much. Okay, so we need more people who do that because I see people doing that against us. In the games that we're losing, people are getting by our perimeter defenders. And I thought, like I said, I thought that Bridges played a good game against Steph yesterday in the first half. Very much pestered Steph. He got off some shots and he missed some shots, but he just had a lot going on around him. And I think that bothered him a little bit. Second half, he figured it out, and maybe Bridges didn't play as good a defense, but he wasn't in his ass as much.
They made Steph less of a ball handler in the second half, and that was and they emphasized Jimmy. That was another adjustment that we made. Whereas they make the adjustment to double Jalen Brunson, and we make no counter adjustment. We just continue to run what we typically run. We don't run anything different. And then Jalen Brunson ends up having a not so great second half. And honestly, at 60 games, I would say the statistics are, you're not cherry picking statistics when you're talking about season-long statistics at 60 games. The fact that we are worst at guarding the 3 and the fact that we are 27th in attempts, those are what they are. We are what we are. We are what those statistics are. And it's more anecdotal to say, sometimes I see this or I don't see that. It's less anecdotal to say this is what at 60 games what we are. And I just don't understand.
No one disputes those two stats. They're fact. They're real. Yeah. That doesn't mean we still don't guard well with people going to the hole. That's a problem.
Yes,
that happens to us a lot.
But not guarding the 3 is more of a problem. And the thing is that if we already are not a good team at guarding the paint, like you say, then at least put the emphasis on the most dangerous shot in the game and make sure that you're better at that one. You can't be, if you got to pick one. You got to pick one.
I don't think you have to pick one.
And we don't have
better teams don't pick one. They're good at both.
Listen, I know, but we don't have the personnel to do that. So we definitely don't have the personnel to guard the rim. So gear your offense to guard the perimeter. That's what we have the personnel for. That's what we have. We don't have the personnel to guard the rim, and it's the most dangerous shot.
And again, Nick, I'm thinking to myself, just with me thinking out loud, that the Knicks coaching
They're
group
not doing it.
have had
They're
that
not doing
same
it.
conversation, but they
Thibs
don't.
has never done
They
it his entire
clearly,
career.
they
He's never done it his
clearly
entire
don't
career.
believe. They clearly don't believe if we stress that much guarding the three. I'm sure they feel like people will be running to the hole and dunking on us all the time, all day, especially before Mitchell Robinson came back, and he still needs to get his sea legs. Look, I don't know, Nick. All of this is opinion. Thibs is the coach. I think he's a good coach. But if we can't get over the hump with him, then maybe we got to change. All I'm saying is, be careful what you wish for. I don't think there's a lot better situations out there unless we find some wonder kid who's just amazing. And then you got to hope that guys adhere and listen to him. I think that the guys seem to like Thibs. I think that to think that he's going to get in everybody's ass just like Joe Mazzulla does. Well, maybe that's not Thibs' style this year. Maybe the guys on the Knicks wouldn't be receiving of that as well.
My
I don't know.
personal opinion on the best case scenario is that we keep Thibs. I think that Thibs has the guys' attention to a certain extent. I just think that he is a little bit old and a little bit outdated. And I think that when it comes to the way that he plays defense and how he decides to guard the paint as opposed to the 3-point line, I don't think that's something that the Knicks that they're talking about. Hey, we should change that, because that's what Thibs has done his entire career, and he's been doing it for a long time. He talks about it. He's so obsessed with size on the floor and being able to protect the paint. And I think that we need to make a shift there. And I think what we need to do is we need to have. I honestly, man, the more as the season goes on, and I see the difference in our team from last year, and it's some of it's personnel, but some of it's how we play. And I see the way that Cleveland is playing. The more and I know this is obviously just me throwing an opinion out there, a theory out there, but I think Johnny Bryant was a big deal, and I think that having an assistant coach who can be somebody who is more forward thinking and more analytics driven, which everybody says that Johnny Bryant definitely is. I think that is something that we are missing this year. I think that we need to have a assistant coach who is younger and more on top of shit. I'm sorry, Rick Brunson. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good rah-rah guy. I don't think he's over there like just really breaking down the minutia of advanced analytics and what today's game calls for. I just don't get that impression from him. I definitely don't know anybody else.
Nick, you have no idea.
You
have no idea.
Okay, but
he's been a good coach for a long time.
Nobody. Okay, but everybody that's not on the Knicks bench has no idea. So it's just me giving my opinion, and this is what I think, and I'm basing it on the fact of what we looked like last year and what Cleveland looks like this year. Obviously, this guy was a big deal for them to get, and they have essentially the same team and have skyrocketed. Whereas, I just the way that we overall play, it's outdated. It is. It just is.
I think that's more Kenny Atkinson than it is Johnny Bryant. Okay, because his team played really well when he was in Brooklyn.
Kenny Atkinson's numbers compared to Thibs, they're honestly though, that's another thing. Somebody brought this up the other day. I looked it up. Kenny Atkinson, his numbers overall as a coach ain't that great. Okay,
Nick, he's a good coach, but he had a shitty team in Brooklyn. He's got a much better team this year. That's why he's winning so much.
I think he's a good coach. But I think that, I don't even think it's fair to try to say that, like, I wouldn't say that Kenny Atkinson is necessarily a better coach than Thibs. I really wouldn't.
I didn't say he's a better coach than Thibs. I said he's a very good coach, and their style of play works for them. I also think that you're saying that we don't guard the three very well. Did we guard the three much better last year?
Yes.
So why do you think we did it so much better last year and so much worse this year?
First of all,
Thibs or is it personnel?
We guarded the three better last year. I don't think that we were worse than the league, but I don't think that we were like, one of the top tier 3-point guarding teams. I can look it up, but
we were
I think
still
that some of
better
that
last year, and I think Thibs didn't forget anything from last year. I think we just don't guard the three as well because, again, maybe these guys aren't busting ass getting out there as much. Nick, they're just not. We're in all facets of our defense. We're not putting forth.
But our guarding of the three is not just about effort, Dad. It's about it's smarter people than me have broken this down. It's about how we play. So yesterday we play where Steph Curry has the ball at the top, right? No, Jimmy Butler has the ball at the top of the key, and OG plays in a spot where he's there where he's there close to being able to help, and then Jimmy Butler just makes one pass to Buddy Hield catches it and just shoots a three.
Right.
I'm sorry. And OG, we know he's a great defender, but that's something that we overhelp more than any team in the league. It is clearly part of our defensive concept that we want to be in a position to be able to give help in that situation, where other teams say you leave that guy on an island and you get close on those guys in the wing because you don't want them taking below the break threes, especially if they're Buddy Hield. And when that happens, and that happened multiple times in the game yesterday, I need a coach who calls a timeout and says, OG, stop being over there to help and be as close as you can to Buddy Hield, and don't let him just catch that ball and shoot a wide open three. That's not happening. It's not.
And
if it is happening, then they're just blatantly ignoring him.
I think it's happening more than I think it's happening more than
if they are ignoring him. That's a problem.
I think it's happening more than you know. I think players make stupid mistakes sometimes, and I saw OG make stupid mistakes a couple times last night. I don't think that after OG sloughed off of Buddy Hield that they gave him a pat on the back.
But that's the thing.
No, he should have just stayed with him. He should have stuck with him instead of helping.
He's where Thibs wants him to be. That's the defense we run, Dad. That's what we run. We run a defense.
So we ran the same defense last year, but it worked? It worked better? Why?
It might have worked a little bit better, but it still wasn't good. I still don't think the concept is good. The concept has to be more so of a let's leave guys on an island and don't help as much so we don't give up wide. If this guy gets beat off the dribble, he gets beat off the dribble. But what we're not going to do is give up a wide open three to Buddy Hield. That is absolutely positively not our concept. It isn't. If you watch them, you watch the Knicks wings. Watch the Knicks wings. They get in that spot where they're able to check out my guy Jason Timpf on Hoops Nation. He talked about it. That's our concept. That's what we do. That's what we do all the time. We are too quick to help.
I think Nick, if we didn't help and these guys were driving past people going to the hole, yourself and other like-minded people would be like, what is wrong with Thibs? Why is he doing this kind of defense? Too many people get into the hole. When we lose, there's criticism and people get upset about it and say we're doing things wrong. When we win, it's great. We're 40-21, mind you now, losing against the better teams in the league because we're not one of the top 4 teams in the league. We're just not. We're not. We're not by personnel, maybe not in coaching, but I just don't think we are in personnel. I don't think we are right now. And I don't know what cures that. But I think whenever you lose, everybody's going to find everything you did wrong, and that's the way it goes. I think that Thibs would rather the team play better 3-point defense, and we do have some concepts that maybe don't work all the time. They work a lot of the time, clearly by our record. They don't work all of the time, and they don't work against the better teams because they're better than us, and their teams play harder than us. Their teams play with more force than us. I think that's what it comes down to more than anything, Nick. We were much more active in the first half. Now, did we become less active in the second half because they changed their schemes? I don't know. If we did, then that's just stupid. That's stupid on our part. And like I said, if Thibs is berating these guys and getting in these guys' ass and they're not listening, maybe they need a new voice. I don't know. But I just think that's risky. That's a slippery slope.
In the first half yesterday, the Warriors, they missed 11 wide open shots. In the third quarter, they hit their first 6. I'm telling you, going back and rewatching it, I don't think we were that much more active. I think that we, in the second half, they just started making shots. I think the defense pretty much wasn't great from the jump. And this year, we're opponents are shooting 37% from 3 against the Knicks. Last year, opponents shot 36.9% from 3 against the Knicks. So we've sucked at guarding the 3 both seasons.
I know, but it didn't seem to, okay, this is the other thing, Nick. We're acting like sometimes people act like we're worse than we were last year and whatnot, where we're actually better. I think the problem is a lot of what it is, Nick, is that people didn't have expectations last year. So of us being gritty and gutty and winning games that
we had terrible injuries last year.
Right. And us still winning and but nobody had expectations for us to win 50 games last year. Nick. For us to win as many games as we did and play as well as we did and play gritty and gutsy and all that was great. This year, the expectations are much higher, so the criticisms are much greater. And we're better than we were last year, but there's more criticism because people expect more. And for some reason, people are thinking we're a 60-win team or a 55-win team, and that we're a championship caliber team. I think those expectations are out of whack. That's just me. I don't think we're there.
I think last year we dealt with the injuries, and I think that we overachieved to a certain extent. Listen, I'm not sure we're going to get to 50 wins this season. I think we will, but but listen, we're about to go on this tough West Coast little trip here, where every single game is against. We got Lakers, Clippers, Kings, Blazers. Blazers have been playing great basketball here recently, and then we got the Warriors right after that. Blazers took the Cavaliers to overtime the other night and have just overall for the last month been playing really, really well. Listen, man, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could easily see us going 1-4 in that, just because the Lakers, they're going to be tough. Warriors are going to be tough once again. Kings are not a bad team. Blazers, I mean, there's no game there where it's just like, yo, Knicks should definitely win that game. I hope so.
I thought we had enough to win last night. I think the other thing too, Nick, is that the teams. Other teams, listen, there's much more of a book written on how to guard the Knicks now. And every team is doing it. They're blitzing us. They're playing much more physical with us from the start. And I don't know why the Knicks don't adjust to that.
They did that last year. Especially the Brunson.
They're doing it more now, Nick. But they're doing it more now, Nick, with the entire team. They're up on us more. I think teams have figured out how to play us a little bit better, and we have to raise our level now. And I also think, Nick, that people expect more from us, other teams, so they come into the game with much more of a mindset to go super hard against us. Well, I think maybe last year there were more games where teams thought they could beat us by just coming out there, and we out-hustled them. We outworked them. We're not outworking.
Sounds like to me? You know what that sounds like to me? Coaching.
What? Coaching. Right, Nick. That is coaching. On the junior high school, and college level. On the pro level, there's some coaching involved, Nick, but there's a lot of just, are the players willing to do it?
You think it's a lot of the players talking amongst themselves about how, like,
I think it's a lot of the players,
Knicks, and we need to get up on them, and we need to play, and hey, man, they're pretty good this year. They got a lot of expectations, so I really want to make sure that we do this tonight.
Team has decided, the other coach has said to them, we need to play this way.
Yes.
I think our coach has said to them, guys, recognize people are coming at us harder this year. Have we raised our level and been more intense?
Not at times. I think if that's the case, it's worse. I think it's almost better if Thibs has somewhat antiquated thought processes, rather than he has all these thoughts and he has all these schemes and he just can't get the guys to do what he's asking them to do. That's worse.
I think, that might be the case, Nick. I think that it might be reality. And if that's the case, then maybe you need to get a new voice. You need to get a new voice. But, somebody's not making these guys play hard enough. I don't think they're not playing hard enough because something that Thibs is doing. Thibs isn't doing anything to make them not play hard or not play with more intensity. I
don't think he's making them not play hard. I just don't know if he's necessarily getting them to play hard.
But then why do they do it sometimes?
Because that's human nature. Listen, to be in the NBA, right, and to be a team, it's hard to be a good team in the NBA. That's why there's only a few of them. It's really hard to be a team that consistently gives the effort. I think that skill-wise, talent-wise, I think we do have the guys. I think it's just the fact that we don't give consistent effort. I don't think that any of these teams has their players are so much better than ours. I think that they play harder and with a better scheme for 48 minutes. And I think that that's a thing that's very hard to get a team to do in the NBA. And some coaches are able to do it. This year so far, it has been maddening that we have not been able to. Is some of that personnel? Yes. I think one of the reasons that the Lakers are looking so much better defensively is because you take Finney Smith instead of D'Lo. It's just one player. When that one player is a player who plays much better defense, it raises the level of everybody else. I think there's some of that too, but we came into the season talking about how we just added Mikal Bridges and we got Wingstop and all this other stuff. And
it hasn't worked out.
We also saw last night that it's not just about Cat. Okay. It's not just about Cat being there or not being there, because we had Mitchell Robinson and still a Cat, and our defense still sucked. So I don't know.
And they were getting to the hole. Now,
they're getting to the hole in the second half. They were shooting wide throughout the entire game. They were shooting wide open threes. They just started to hit them in the second half.
Right, Nick. But I always tell you, I'm a firm believer that, when you say, oh, people just miss open shots, people miss open shots because of what else is going on in the game before
No, they had
that
11
shot.
wide open shots that they missed in the first half.
I
11
understand
wide
that,
open.
Nick, but people miss wide open shots sometimes because of the defense that's been played on them before that point. It does. It makes a difference that you're making someone uncomfortable. We talk about all the time how we don't make people uncomfortable. They get in a rhythm, and there you go. And now it's over. Now you can't stop them. We don't make enough people uncomfortable throughout the game. I think we made Steph much more uncomfortable in the first half. He wasn't having a good first half. He was missing shots that were point blank, Nick, layups. Is that just, Steph just missed a shot? No, because maybe Bridges was pestering him and fucking with him, and that has an effect, Nick. It absolutely
I think it absolutely has to do with the fact that he was just missing shots. I think that happens all the time. We see teams. Listen, the Knicks yesterday, they didn't shoot well. They shot like 8 of 33 from 3, and a lot of those shots are shots that we typically make. I think that there's going to be ebbs and flows when it comes to shot making in any NBA game. But I thought that Steph's comfort in the second half, very much of that was attributed to the fact that they switched up how they were trying to get him involved in the game, and therefore they were able to get him the ball where he was more comfortable because he wasn't having to deal with all the ball handling. And I think that overall we gave up a ton of I rewatched it. We gave up a ton of wide open shots in the first half that you expect them to hit all the time. They just didn't hit them. And in the second half, when they regressed to the
you don't think we played better defense in the first half? They just missed.
Maybe marginally, but no, I don't. And the numbers bear it out. Like I said, I think a wide open shot is a wide open shot. I think when a guy shoots a wide open shot, whatever happened to him before that, if he ends up being wide open at the end of it, I think that those shots are typically going to go in for most NBA players. And if they miss 11 of those in the first half and they come out and they hit their first 6 in the second half, I think that's just the law of averages.
Okay. I think that the defense you play in a game has an effect on the player you're playing against in making him not be comfortable and not having rhythm. Okay? Basketball is a rhythm game. And if you get people out of rhythm, that affects them whether they're open or not. I don't know how you can dispute that. I mean, you play basketball. You know that.
Yeah, but the whole affecting them is not allowing them to be as open, bothering them.
I understand that. And I'd like it if they weren't as open. But I think that when you play better defense, that affects the entire game. The other team's shooting, our shooting. Okay. If we play better defense, we get a couple easy baskets that like 6-8 points in the game that can make all the difference in how we play. But we're not playing good enough defense to get those easy baskets. That affects everything. We're not playing good enough defense for the most part, I think, because we don't give maximum effort or high enough effort consistently. You said the same thing. We have ebbs and flows, Nick, and I don't know if that's all personnel. I think it's more personnel than anything, but I see Jalen Brunson playing hard, Nick. He does. He plays hard, but he's just not a great defender. But he does play hard, and he makes smart plays sometimes where he gets his hand in there in the passing lanes. No doubt about it. I just think we're not as good a defensive team. I actually thought we were going to win last night, and part of the reason I thought we were going to win was because we were going to go back to a little bit more of last year's style where we got a regular 5 who's not much of an offensive threat, but he's a defensive monster. Mitch didn't play that great defensively last night. He just didn't. And he could only play – how many minutes did Mitch play? He didn't play that much. He played 15 minutes.
Played 18 maybe. He didn't play that much. And obviously, he's still on the minutes restriction. Well. And I thought that, he didn't do – listen, I thought that we very much missed Cat last night. I mean, especially against that team and their lack of a true 5, and really offensively, I mean, we scored 102 points. Without Cat, our offense falls off and our 3-point percentage because of the lack of spacing, which is why, to me, you got to go all the way small right there. You got to go all the way small because especially if you're playing up against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, if you're not hitting threes, it's going to be real hard to keep up with that team. And, I just think that we just have to agree to disagree on the fact that I do think that sometimes teams miss shots, not necessarily because of the defense that's playing against them. I thought that we were 8 of 33 yesterday from 3-point, not because the defense was so great by the Warriors. I just thought we missed shots. And I think that happens.
I don't think it's absolute what I'm saying, Nick. I'm not saying that it's absolutely because of the defense. Right. I think that I think that it has an effect. We can never quantify exactly how much, but I think that the defense you play against someone will affect them on their next shot, whether they're open or not. Some guys can power through. Some guys might be affected now. Maybe they find a way to power through in the second half. But, I think we have to play much, much better defense. I don't think our dogged effort is good enough. And I also think, like I said to you, even if we gave more of a dogged effort, which we do at times, which is what makes it so frustrating, I don't think we have necessarily the personnel. I like Precious, but I don't know if Precious is that guy.
Listen, Precious,
you might need to move Precious in the
again. Offseason. Precious play. Well, I mean, he'll be a free agent. Precious getting. This is my issue with last night. Josh Hart, 33 minutes. Precious, 30 minutes. Deuce McBride, 23. I think Deuce McBride should be playing 30 minutes a game, and especially in this game with Josh Hart having a terrible game, ended up being a negative 22, team worst. And Deuce McBride was a team best, +8. No, I'm sorry, Shamit was +9. And so I think that there are times where you have to be able to see in this game, and I'm telling you in real time, not playing the results. When Deuce came out of the game, I was like, because I was wondering, I saw the 3 at the scoring table, and I was like, I wonder who they're coming in for right now. And when Deuce came out of the game, I was like, you cannot take Deuce out of this game right now.
But you are playing the results, Nick. Because because
I criticize them when we win. No, even when we win, I criticize them.
But if Deuce had come out the game and Josh Hart came in and made big plays like he did in the Miami game, what are you saying then?
Yes, but
Josh Hart shouldn't be on the
court. Before he got a chance to make any plays or anything, I said out loud, I don't understand how we're taking Deuce out of the game. I gave Thibs all the credit. I texted you after the game on Sunday and said I thought Thibs did an excellent job of his manipulation of the lineup down the stretch.
You would not have texted me that if they had lost.
Yes, I would have. If they'd have lost the game, if the guy, whether or not the lineup that you put in and the manipulation of that, I'm not playing the results. I'm playing what I think. If last night, if Josh Hart came in and played and made great plays, I still would have said I don't think we should have taken Deuce out of that game. I don't think Deuce should ever play a game where he plays 23 minutes. Period. I think he should play 30 minutes a game every single. I think that should be a mandate that Thibs has for himself before the game starts. I have to figure out a way to play this guy 30 minutes a game because the numbers bear out that the Knicks are a better team when he does.
I think that Josh Hart makes a lot of plays that don't even show up on the stat sheet.
But he didn't have it last night from the beginning.
I know, Nick. He didn't have it last night. He has a shitty first half, and then he does something amazing in the last 5 minutes. He's one of our closers. I'm not saying he has to be in the game, Nick. What I'm saying to you is that I've seen Josh Hart have many shitty games, have many games where he does stupid shit, and down the stretch does amazing shit for us to help us win the game. Many, many, many times. I think after a certain point with players, if you're a coach, I have faith in this guy to do what's right. And sometimes that's wrong. A lot of times it's been right where Josh Hart is concerned. I think it's easy to sit there and quote stats and say, oh, that was a mistake and whatnot.
No, I'm talking about what my eyeball saw. It has nothing to do with this. Is not. I said this in real time while watching the game yesterday. This is right when I got the chance to start watching the game. So it's not me just quoting stats. But I do look at the box score, and just like when Thibs is looking at whatever piece of paper he's looking at, he should be looking at the piece of paper and saying, "This guy's 1 of 8. He has 1 offensive rebound, and I'm watching him play like shit." And this guy Deuce right here throughout the entire season, the team is better with him on the floor. Every statistic says so, and every eyeball when you see it says so. We're not right now. I'm not taking this guy out of the game. And again, Deuce should never play 23 minutes, period. He just shouldn't. He's too good of a player for this team. He should never play 23 minutes. He shouldn't. I think his average overall should be higher. But the nights where he plays 17 minutes, like he did last week against Philadelphia, and last night where he plays 23, those are mistakes, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Bridges, I don't know what's going on with this guy. His lack of aggressiveness on offense sometimes. The defense, I'd say around New Year, since then, the defense has been a little bit more consistent. But offensively, man, I mean, at one point he caught the ball around 8 feet from the basket with Curry on his back and dribbled away from the basket and then took a fadeaway. And I'm just like, I don't get it, Bridges. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we letting
He can go to the hole and lay it up on what's his name, Steph,
Curry
anytime he wants.
anytime he wants. Sometimes he
Steph doesn't
doesn't
play
even
that
look.
great defense, and he's way too long for Steph to affect him.
I don't get it. I don't get why he does shit like that
I think
sometimes.
there's a chance he gets traded in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think it's
Honestly,
very
listen,
possible.
there was a time where I thought that, how could you criticize this trade? I'm at a point now where it's like, is this guy worth? Okay, you really got to start thinking about it when it's time to give this guy a contract. Okay, are you going to give this guy that big ass fucking contract when he's having this type of inconsistency? But then how many guys out there are going to give you what he does? Like, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, obviously, and it's going to have to do with who's available and what you can do and who you can trade him for. Do you try to get back some assets? I don't really see us being in the place where it's like, oh, we need to draft some guys. No, that's not the window. That's not the way this team is set up. We're going to have to bring in guys who are ready to play. And I just Bridges, the ups and downs on the offensive end are just driving me bananas. And it's like, it's really, really hard. Listen, he's made some very clutch plays, on the defensive end. He overall has been a good defender. Some nights he looks like a world beater. Sometimes he doesn't. But overall, the offensive end and what you need from an NBA shooting guard, as far as consistent aggressiveness and the ability to knock down shots, has not been consistent enough this year at all.
I think there's a good chance, believe it or not. I don't know what we would have to put together, but listen, as we know with players, if they want to force their way out, they will force their way out of a team and to a particular team, right? What do we have to couple with Bridges to send to Phoenix to
Devin
get
Booker.
One of two players, Devin Booker or Durant?
Both. You're saying Durant out?
No, I'm not saying I want him. I think Durant will want to be out. Will want a different will want to go somewhere different. I think the Knicks are one of the teams he would consider. I think, I'm not saying I want Durant over Bridges, but maybe for next year, I wouldn't want him right now to just change everything up right now. But maybe next year, that may be the case, Nick. We're clearly going to have to do something different. We're not going to stand pat this all season. And I think, listen, I'd love Devin Booker, obviously, but I don't know. What would you have to couple with Bridges to get Devin Booker?
We don't have the picks. I mean, it would be, I think that would start with Bridges and Deuce and then whatever after that, honestly. And look, what I think is going to happen is this year we're going to try to make 6 through 10 better. I don't think statistically our starting five is fantastic. I mean, statistically our starting five is one of the best in the league.
Well, just a second ago, you're saying Bridges is too inconsistent. So he's part of our starting five, but I'm saying what
I think. I'm saying that's what I think. I'm saying what I think we're going to do now. What I think we're going to do is we're going to try to make 6 through 10 better, as opposed to try to make our starting five so much better. And then, we'll be able to add a slightly more high-priced veterans with, maybe getting rid of a Precious and also with the salary cap going up. But I don't think that they're going to just punt on this Bridges experiment so quickly after they gave up so many assets for him, because there's no way that you're going to get back similar, overall assets for Bridges as you gave up for him. You're just not. So I don't think they're going to punt on it so quick. And I don't know if, these teams, when you look at a Durant or you look at a Devin Booker, especially, I don't know if we can sustain with giving up as much as we would need to be able to get guys of those caliber, adding something to Bridges because of his performance this year.
Right. But I think, listen, I trust Leon. I trusted Leon for a very long time. I think he's a good GM. I don't feel like, because things are not going as swimmingly as we would like, although we maintain the fifth best record in the league out of a league of 30 teams. Mm-hmm. I think Leon's a good GM, and I think Leon will make good decisions going forward. So I trust whatever he does, and I don't regret the Bridges trade, because again, the draft picks, miss me with that, the 8th graders. But I think that Leon will make the necessary moves in the offseason, make the moves that we need to make, and we're going to need to make some moves. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, listen, I said this to you from when we got Cat, Nick, and you were like, no, we got to play 5 out and whatnot. But Cat needs to play with a center. Okay? Cat needs to play with a center. And I hope that can be our man Mitch, if he can stay healthy and he can get back to doing what he's doing. But maybe it's this guy, Moses Brown. I don't know, but he needs to play with a center. Well, you see what this kid Moses Brown did to one game. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah,
for
Moses
Dallas,
Brown he's been putting up gaudy numbers down in the G League, and he has had gaudy numbers. He did have gaudy numbers in a couple of those games for Dallas when he got called up by them. The thing about him is that, listen, man, this guy he's been around for 6 years, and he's over 7 feet tall. If those guys are typically good enough to be, in NBA rotations and getting, good minutes and doing that sort of thing consistently, they don't usually get missed on. And I know I read somebody on Twitter who was saying, like, watch a game with this guy. His pick and roll defense is horrible. He's not, he's going to get a block here and there, but like his overall pick and roll defense and his overall just instincts on the defensive end are not so great. I think that what will eventually happen is that, Cat will play some time with a starting center. But I also think that that's going to be, throughout the game. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be the starting lineup that gets switched up. I don't know. Who knows? We're going to see how that all goes and what Thibs ends up deciding to do. And I just don't know if it's going to end up being a thing where Josh Hart gets moved to the bench for Mitch to be a starter, because I think that Thibs trusts Josh Hart that much and loves Josh Hart that much, which was on full display in the game last night against the Warriors. And I think that he trusts this guy so much. I don't know if he's going to move him to the, to the bench, even if that's something that I'd want to happen. But we'll see. We'll see what
I think Josh Hart will go to the bench ultimately for Mitch at some point before the postseason and in the postseason. But I also think that Josh Hart will still play more minutes than Mitch, so it won't really matter. Josh Hart's still going to play 30 minutes a game, and that's fine. I mean, a month ago, everybody was screaming that he was playing too much. Now he's playing 30 minutes a game. We're hearing he's playing too little. So, I mean, I still think we'll be a better team in the postseason. I think that Mitch will be better. But I think we're somewhat flawed, Nick. I just feel like I feel like when I watch the games, I feel like our perimeter guys are getting past us way too easily. And I feel sometimes like back off the guy, but then, as you say, everybody's making threes. So I don't freaking know the answer. I mean, clearly it's above my pay grade. I'm hoping that the coaches that are there can figure it out and we could do better.
One huge bright spot, a couple bright spots. I mean, listen, Brunson won, player of the week last week. He was fantastic. He continues to be the most clutch player in the entire NBA. The Knicks get 3 wins that, 2 of them against teams that you would like to win by more, but one in Memphis, 3 gutty wins, exciting games. And then OG seems like he's back to being the OG that we all know and love. That second half against Miami was a defensive masterclass. I mean, Garden Tyler Hero, go ahead and put him on Bam. There's the video of him with the Michael Myers music in the background. It's just, I love it so much. And he's just like standing there like this, looking at Tyler Hero, and then he like gets down into the stance, all dramatic and whatnot. He baits him into a 3 at one point by going under the screen, and then still gets the block. It strips Bam towards the end. OG's been fantastic. He had the game-winning 3 against Memphis when Brunson drove, everybody collapsed, kicked it out to him, and he's hit it. And then again last night against Golden State, huge offensive output from OG. He's 29 points, 11 of 19. He's 4 of 9 from 3, gives you 3 assists and 3 boards as well. OG's looking like, he's coming back into himself, and the offense, that's going to kind of come and go a little bit. But if he can continue to be this much of a difference maker on defense, that to me really just takes the entire Knicks team to a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, we need OG to keep playing at that level. Do we feel like OG played at that level last night?
I thought that OG offensively was very good. Defensively, I didn't see the huge impact. Listen, the level that he played against Miami, that's something that you're not going to see many people, OG himself, reach on a night-to-night basis. I mean, that was some wild shit, the things that he did against Miami.
Why?
So I don't know.
Why? He's tired? I mean, why can't he play with that level of intensity every night?
The way that he play it. See, to me, it's not. Some of it's
It's not
intensity,
just
but
intensity.
it's not just intensity. But he just had so many eye-popping plays, and some of it is matchup. Some of it is there's a bunch of different things that go into that. By the way, I do want to point out even more disappointing with the Knicks. I just thought of this, and really grinds my gears. The fact that the Warriors were on the second half of a back-to-back last night, and we weren't, and they still were the team that in the second half seemed to outwork us. They just insanity. But anyway,
Yeah.
OG, listen, I think that was what OG Anunoby did in the second half against Miami, I think was a special performance. And I think defensively, sometimes it's not just about effort. Some of it's about, kind of just like offense. Like you could put all the effort in and just, you're not hitting shots that day. I think defensively, you can have a decent game, but you don't have as many eye-popping, like, oh my God, plays like he did in that Miami game. I don't see many players do that ever, let alone all the time. I just don't. I there's not players playing like OG played in the second half of that game all the time.
No, there aren't many, but we're going to need OG to do that much more consistently if we're to make any noise in the postseason. Yeah. I mean, he hasn't played that way often enough this year for my liking, but part of it might be that he's healthier now, that he's really coming back and into his full self after that, foot, what was it, a foot, calf, whatever. So I'm hoping that's part of it too. I'm hoping we're all getting healthy at the right time. I'm hoping some teams sleep on us a little bit since we're not killing it. But we're going to have to come out and do that. I think that when we lose, a lot of people want to feel the need to criticize the coach. And I get that. And that's the case in every sport, with every league, right? But I think a lot of it, especially in the NBA, especially with professional players like this, I think most of it is the ball players, man. And I think these guys give them a blueprint, and it's the team that has. See, I think Jalen Brunson's a very good leader. It's just hard for him to be a very good leader defensively.
Why have the Warriors been such a great defensive team over, the last decade plus?
No, and that has to do with their philosophy and how they and how aggressively they played defensively, which they didn't play so aggressively the first half yesterday. They didn't play, with so much intensity defensively the first half yesterday. They came out the second half and turned it up. We must have thought we could play the same way we played first half, and we'd have the same results second half. Well, guess what? They stepped it up, guys. We need to step it up too. We didn't. I mean, we were on our heels.
The Knicks scored 55 points in the first half yesterday.
I know. But, I mean, compared to the other team. But, Nick, you have to also understand, you're just quoting stats. We scored 55 points, but the other team only scored 45 points. Sometimes it has to do with the amount of possession. Sometimes, when you have a fast-paced game, you score more points, but you're not playing as good defense. I think we just didn't play as good defense. They played better defense in the second half, and we didn't. They raised their level in the second half. And maybe we stayed at the same level or maybe went down a little bit as far as playing hard. I really do believe that, Nick. I feel like there were times in that game. And again, Nick, I think it has a lot to do with, I see the body language. Nick, you can see it in their shoulders. A lot of times, like you say, OG, the game before, you saw it just in how he played. And certain points last night, you could see their shoulders just shrug a little bit, and after something happens, like the other team scores or something, you look at the players on our team. There's sometimes where they get a little more steely and get a little more gritty, and there's other times where, and you can see that, and they play like that. There's sometimes where their body language shows it, and they play a certain way, and there's other times where we just shrug, and we're a little wide-eyed, and all sorts of shit is going on around us, and we don't seem to be able to affect it. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think personnel-wise, we got to get some guys who are a little bit more defensive-minded and a little bit more gritty. Like I said, that change from a D'Lo to a Finney-Smith. Look what that's done for that Lakers team. And I also think that and I also think overall we need to be spurned to give more effort on a more consistent basis and be held accountable when we don't. And I think that's going to be.
What'd you say? Spurned?
Yeah, that's what I said. Is that not the word?
No, there would be no N in that word. You want to say spurred. Spurning someone is like.
That's what I said. Shout out to my guy Keith Watkins, man. As always, greetings from ATL.
What up, Keith?
He says that coaches complain about this guy Moses, his overall motor as well.
Really?
It's interesting because sometimes
That's
you see
no
his
good.
stat line, it seems like he's got a crazy motor. And he also says that Josh will get 30+ minutes and close 90% of games, whether he starts or not. I agree. I thought yesterday was the time to experiment without Josh. And at the end of the day, I just thought we couldn't take Deuce off the floor. Couldn't they? And man, these smart teams, if you put Precious and Josh on the floor at the same time, we are not. Our offense is bogged down. It's trash, especially without a cat.
So could you see putting Deuce in the game without Precious, and we go super small?
Oh, I thought that yesterday. Honestly, yesterday I felt like the move was let's run the lineup where like OG is the center. Just because,
I mean, it could do it because who's their center, right? Who's their big? Well, no, not Draymond. Was Draymond playing the 5 a lot yesterday? Or did they have another guy?
I thought they had Draymond was playing, and then they have the one tall white dude. His name is Post. Quentin Post.
But he plays no post.
But he played 8 minutes 11 seconds. So
it's not like
he was. Oh no, I'm sorry. I still have. I'm on second half stats. Sorry.
Yeah. He played more than that.
Stats before. He played 14 minutes and 52 seconds. Total. So it's not like he was out there a ton. And I definitely thought that Draymond, when Draymond was the center, let's make OG the center.
Yeah, I'm sure that our coaching group must have thought that we could take advantage of our size, but that guy we got taken advantage. No, we got taken advantage of. So no bueno.
Yeah, this next Lakers tomorrow and that West Coast trip. Yeah,
tough.
Things could feel just really good. Or just absolutely like the sky is falling by this time next week. And
when we come back here next week, the Knicks are going to surprise people, and you're going to eat all your Josh Hart words.
I love Josh Hart. I love Josh Hart.
Don't believe it, Josh. Don't believe it. Don't believe it, Thibs.
He's one of my favorite Knicks. I say all the time that he is the literal heart of the city and the heart of the team, that he is the perfect player to wear that number for the New York Knicks. I give him all the credit in the world. He's going through a tough time right now. He can't shoot the ball. I'm glad he's at least taking them now, but he took 4 threes yesterday, and it's not that none of them went in.
You always shoot an air ball 3 from the top of the key.
None of them were close.
I know.
The 4 shots he shot. None of them.
And when he takes that last second, like dribbling around 3, it inevitably comes up short. Inevitably.
But the thing is that what drives me nuts is how other teams, you can tell they're baiting our entire offense into that.
I know that. Even
that's what they want to happen. And we don't. Dad, they ran a zone yesterday and we had no idea what to do.
I know. But see, Nick, okay. Miami ran a matchup zone against us and we killed them. We killed them in the second half with them.
Yeah, because they ran a matchup zone. Again? They ran a matchup zone. I think that there's a difference in the zone that was run against us. I know. They ran a more of just a straight up flat 2-3 zone, and I don't understand why no one's flashing middle, and I don't understand. I put that on the coach and the players. I mean, flashing middle on a zone is something that I learned when I was in 7th grade.
And these guys have learned over and over all their life.
Yes,
but if they're not, they just play stupid.
Then you stop, then you call a timeout and you say somebody flash to the fucking middle when they run a zone. And if they don't do it, then they sit next to you. And if they're literally just like he's saying that to them and they're like, okay, Thibs, and they go out and they just don't do it, then I don't know what to say then.
Right. I think that's where we're at, Nick. I don't think
he told the flash to the middle and they just said, no, we're not going to do it.
No, they just said, no, we're not going to do it, Nick.
Or they just don't do it.
Basketball is a game of rhythm, right? And all that. And at the end of the day, people get on the court and you tell them what to do as a coach, but guys are going to do what they're going to do on the court. And most of the time, I think they do what the coach does. No, I think most of the time they listen to the coach and do what the coach asks of them and do what the coach says. But I think sometimes they don't. I think if they didn't, we wouldn't be one of the top 5 teams in the league. We just don't do it against the best teams in the league. I think that has to do with the best teams being better teams. Maybe, it's your opinion, maybe they're better coached because those guys listen to their coach more and whatnot. Maybe Thibs isn't the guy. Maybe that's it. I think that's I think if you get rid of Thibs after this year, I think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But again, that's my opinion. We'll see. I hope we do. I hope. Listen, if they get rid of him and we're better next year, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to cry a river over Thibs. I just want to be better. I think he gives us a chance to be better. I think after a certain point, the players have to take us to the next level. And I think that at some games this year, I think sometimes the players have let us down because I think sometimes our game plan is great. I don't think we've forgotten the game plan. I don't think Thibs forgotten what he said 2 games ago or last game. I think sometimes we don't play as well. And it shows. It shows. And, we got to be better. We, like you said, we need those dogs on defense because as much as a leader as Jalen Brunson is, he can't really be that great a leader on defense because he's just not that great defensively.
Who was our leader on defense last year?
I don't know, but you know what? I was thinking about that. Dante DiVincenzo and Hartenstein were 2 of the biggest dogs on the team and playing hard, physical defense. We don't have those guys this year, and it shows.
Yeah.
It shows. You'd like to hope that and listen, am I going to say that Dante DiVincenzo is a better defender than Bridges? No way. But does he play more intense physical defense against wings than Bridges? Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Does he make the other player a little more uncomfortable at times? But then there's times where Bridges makes people super uncomfortable.
I think that's a stretch, Dad. I think that's a stretch. I think, listen, it's very
like
easy.
I said, Bridges is a better defender.
It's very easy with your eyeballs to see the effort that Dante DiVincenzo is putting in because of the fact that he's undersized and it's almost like what Bridges does definitely looks more effortless. I don't think that he's a better defender. Like you said Bridges is a better defender, but so I don't think that he was making people less comfortable than Bridges does.
I think he does, Nick, just because of the way he plays. I don't know how to put it, Nick, but I think
just more of an agitator.
Yes, exactly. Bridges is too nice at times. Even when he's playing dogged, hard defense, he's kind of nice about it. And I'm not saying he has to be an asshole. I'm saying Bridges is the kind of guy. What I saw out of our man Ragu last year is little things, Nick. Like, when he's running with that guy on the baseline, he's giving him that extra nudge or something, just something that might piss the guy off, get him off. Hey, what the fuck? That type of shit. Bridges doesn't do that necessarily. Bridges is going to play good defense. He's going to be up on you, but he's not making you annoyed. Josh is annoying you, and Josh is doing shit like before the ball's inbounded, he's standing right here. Ragu, he's standing right here.
Yeah.
Before the ball's inbounded. And you're like, dude, man, can you get the fuck off me? And Josh is Ragu's just like right here in your ear.
There's something to
just
that.
Annoying the shit out. You know there's something to it. You played the game. You know there's something to that, Nick. And that fucks with you a little bit. You're a little uncomfortable. My shirt's not tucked in properly. Just don't feel right. And that affects the game. It's impossible to quantify. It's just what I think I see.
Speaking of untucked shirts, OG. When OG's shirt gets untucked in the back and he's got it just tucked in the first, that's when he's locked in. I saw somebody put the other day, they were like, untucked OG is a top 50 player in NBA history.
Well, I hope so. Then somebody needs to untuck his shirt first play of every game. If that's the case. Let's go.
Yeah.